everyone, I have a sunburn right now and that's pretty cool. So today I'm going to be talking about all the movies I've seen this month in quarantine, just reminding those that forgot, we are in July right now. Yes, July. I've been doing this for 5 months, at least I believe so. Let's jump into it right now. I started things off by rewatching Knives Out again. Nothing else to say besides what a fun time. I followed that up by rewatching 1917. The last time I saw this was in a theater, and it was big and it was epic, so everything was pretty underwhelming watching it on a small TV, but I was still able to have a semi-similar experience. It's not as good on a rewatch, but man oh man do I love this film. Then it was Tom Cruise's birthday, so I watched one of his that I had not seen before by the name of Risky Business. I liked the plot a lot here, and just the simple idea of a teenager's insane weekend while his parents are out worked for me. The theme at the end is interesting. It's like the opposite version of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Everything goes wrong, so it makes for a hilarious and anxiety-filled ride. It drags a little in the third act, but I still found a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. Followed that up with another Tom Cruise movie that I have seen, and I saw it about a year ago. No, it was still Tom's birthday. This movie was Jerry Maguire, directed by Cameron Crowe. I'm gonna read my Letterboxd review because I'm pretty proud of it, not to brag. It's hard to watch this movie without smiling at least 10 times throughout. Tom Cruise brings so much infectious energy, and his smile alone is contagious. While he's happy, you're happy. When he's mad, you're kind of mad and happy at the same time. When he's in love, you're in love and you're still happy. It's a good feeling movie with some great supporting roles from Renee Zellweger and Cuba Gooding Jr. I swear, that dude actually gave one of the most energetic performances I've ever seen. Great movie that has a romance disguised as a character piece / sports drama. The tropes never bothered me that much because they just gave enough screen time to the romance to make me smile, but not enough to get me annoyed, which is fantastic. So what I'm saying is the romance wasn't as cliched as I would have expected it to be, and I had a blast with this film. I then saw Drive, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I was greatly disappointed. This should have been one of my favorite movies, but it's not. For one big reason, I felt so much detachment from the characters on screen. I didn't find the chemistry between Gosling and Mulligan very believable. I didn't think there was much emotional weight behind anything at all, and this is my opinion. I mean, if you connect with this movie, that's okay. I didn't feel as much as I should have by the end. Before you're quick to judge and say that I'm one of those people expecting some big action movie, you're wrong, because I was expecting a slow burn drama. I just thought they'd give you a little more savage moments to be wowed by, but I wasn't. Don't think I hate this movie either, because I do like it. It's close to being the best looking movie I've ever seen. It's got great chase sequences and the score is very unique. I just thought the themes they were exploring were so little. There just wasn't enough. Like, I get it, real human being, real hero. It's just not enough for me to give it a pass for the slow pace. I like movies with quiet protagonists. I like slow movies. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is in my top 5 movies of all time. I do like slow movies. They just need emotional weight, and this movie didn't bring that to me. It just lacked the emotion I was supposed to feel. To have an intriguing story, there must be intriguing characters. I still gave it a good review because I like the movie. I think it has a good direction, and I think there is passion put into it. When I'm going to think of the word filmmaking, the definition of that word will probably be noun. Drive, 2011, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, and I'll leave it at that. I then saw There's Something About Mary on the 4th of July, and I kind of loved it. It was so consistently funny. It was my kind of comedy. I didn't see the whole thing because my uncle was kind of skipping through scenes just to show me the highlights of the film. I still had a blast with this movie. Also, that ending was really something. I then saw Saints and Soldiers, and I was expecting it to be a low-budget, watered-down war film. In some ways, it is, but I think this movie's greatest strength is the fact that it explores the characters and gives them pretty great character arcs. It doesn't depend on violence, it depends on character work. I cared about pretty much everyone in this film because it chooses to only focus on like 5 soldiers. That way they get more screen time than they would have if they had like a huge ensemble cast with a billion different characters. In the end, it was a powerful, low-budget war film that wasn't too preachy, and that was good enough for me. I followed that up by rewatching Die Hard with a Vengeance, directed by John McTiernan. I saw this for the first time back in like the fall, and I liked it. Honestly, this is just a solid action movie, fun roller coaster ride, good character work on the protagonist, but lacking in the antagonist. Like, Jeremy Irons' character is explored well enough, but any other villain is very disposable. This film is all around very well paced and has a pretty impressive screenplay and some great camera work. It's a fun time, but it will never live up to the first Die Hard. I'm sorry. I then saw Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Pretty underwhelming, but still a fun time. It's such a simple concept and executed in such a generic way, but it is funny. And it's mostly due to the fact that the actors on screen are so likable. Like, whenever I see Bill Hader, it's immediately a favorite. I love that guy. We also got Jonah Hill, Paul Rudd, Mila Kunis, and of course, the perfect human being who is Jason Segel. All jokes aside, I loved everyone in this movie. My biggest problem is just the forced conflict in the end that Mila Kunis' character causes. It's unnecessary and totally betrayed her character because she's just a very easygoing person. All of a sudden, she just got really hardcore and it didn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Not all the jokes land. It's just a good, chill time. Something I'd turn on when I'm really bored on like a Saturday weekend. That's all I can say. And then saw Hamilton. The pacing was wonderful. Everything about it was wonderful. I don't have any real problems with it besides the fact that it could have developed a few relationships better between the characters, and a few characters overall could have been developed a little better. In the end, I had a blast from this and learned a lot about someone who I would have never researched on my free time. It's the most impressive stage musical I think I've ever seen, in person or on a screen. And then we watched Catch Me If You Can, directed by Steven Spielberg. I love this movie. It's like the most underrated Spielberg movie in my opinion. I love the tone, I love the execution, I love the fast-paced style, I love Leo, I love Tommy Hanks, I love everyone and everything about this. Maybe a little too long, but it didn't ruin the experience. I'm actually really close to just giving this 5 stars because this is my favorite Spielberg movie of the century that I have seen from him so far. Follow that up with I just died. I then saw Sing Street for the first time. I absolutely loved it. This is such a delightful movie that made me cry, smile, tap my foot to pretty much all the songs. It could have explored some supporting characters more, but I was fine with the basic character study on our 2 leads. It was realistic and all the motives made complete sense. Great film. Also the brother in this, I mean, come on. I then saw The Talk of the Town, Palm Springs, directed by Max Barbaco. I hope I'm saying that right, and I loved it. This is my favorite movie of the year so far, but I haven't seen many movies from this year yet, so it's not much competition. Andy Samberg and Christina Milioti are fantastic in here. Give some of my favorite performances I've seen from them. It's just a delightful little movie that made a concept that I've seen so many times feel fresh and feel original, even though it isn't really original. I like the exploration of the concept. I wish they could have dove in a little more into it, but you know, what can you do? Just a feel-good romantic comedy that made me laugh and smile. It didn't try to be anything more than it was, and that's just what we need these days. I then caught most of Titanic on TV, and I shouldn't count this because I came in like the last hour of the movie, but I wanted to talk about it because I actually really love this movie. The romance is cool, but the best part of this is the sinking section of the movie. People just completely disregard it, I feel like. It's terrifying, it's tragic, and I couldn't even imagine crafting something like what James Cameron crafted here. I would just want to see this in the theater sometime. It would be such an experience. Then rewatched Inside Out, and you know, it's my favorite Pixar movie. Check out my top 20 of the decade video, you know where it'll be. I then saw Fanny and Alexander, directed by Igmar Bergman on the Criterion channel. This was my introduction into Bergman's work, and this movie isn't as great as I wish it was. Doesn't mean it was bad, and definitely not boring. It just didn't focus on what it should have, in my opinion. Let me just read my Letterboxd review again. I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to add. It's by far one of the most interesting movies I've seen in a while. I think Bergman used the camera very well in this. His use of long takes, wides, and close-ups gave this movie some flair. I thought this movie would be more about Fanny and Alexander, and I was surprised to find out that they were going to spend a lot more time with the adult characters. The first hour had me confused. It wasn't uninteresting. I felt pretty invested during it, but I just didn't understand the point of that section of the film. Some of the characters introduced later in the film, but there were a couple that didn't, so I just didn't see why we spent so much time with these characters. Near the beginning section, it didn't really bother me though. The second act is brutal and easily the best aspect of this movie. Third act dragged a little bit, but didn't ruin the overall narrative. I just didn't have a specific emotion in the last 30 minutes of this film. It was funny that Fanny and Alexander were sidelined almost completely during the first act and really introduced over an hour in. I just thought that was kind of funny. I was so surprised that I cared about their father's death, even though I didn't spend enough time to really care about his character. I'll leave it at this. This is probably the most mature explorations of death I've ever seen on film. What a powerful ride. I should have watched the 5-hour version. I'm curious to see what was missing in the theatrical version, which I did see, but you know, what can you do? I then saw About Time, and I loved it. This was just such a satisfying movie. Let me breathe. It didn't have massive stakes. I wouldn't get anxiety watching this thing. It was just a breath of fresh air. It had such a big, stupid smile during the whole thing. Domhnall Gleeson is such an underrated actor, and I think Rachel McAdams gives perhaps maybe her best performance here. I haven't seen Spotlight, but she's really good in this movie. Don't quote me on that, but she's great. Just such a likable movie that I never once felt bored by. Also, the part with his dad, how could you not want to cry there? And then continue watching some more David Fincher movies, starting with Panic Room, starring Jodie Foster and a bunch of other people. I loved it. It's probably Fincher's most underrated movie. This could have easily been some stupid by-the-numbers forgettable thriller. Luckily, it was in the hands of one of the greatest filmmakers of our generation with some of the best actors of our generation. Yes, Panic Room is a fantastic movie. Jared Leto was kind of my favorite part and kind of the worst part of the movie at the same time. He was just a little too over the top that took me out of the movie a little bit. That never ruined the experience though. Forrest Whitaker is terrific in here, and obviously Jodie Foster is pretty much perfect, as always. I had a great time with this. It's not Fincher's most important movie, but I do think what I've seen from it, it's his most consistently intense movie he's done, minus probably 7, I think. Yes, I know he's made far deeper movies with intense moments, but I'm talking about consistency, and this is probably the fastest paced thriller he has done too. So yeah, great movie. Go check it out. I followed that up by watching Zodiac, also directed by Fincher. This is probably his most universally loved movie. Almost everyone I follow on Letterboxd loved this movie. I thought it was pretty great on a technical level. All the performances are brilliant. The scope of this world is huge, and it's just interesting that they chose to focus on the characters on the case rather than the case itself. I was pretty skeptical of watching this for a while because one of my uncles told me it was boring and my other uncle said it downright sucked. I thought it was pretty amazing. I don't think it's Fincher's best though. I know people won't agree with me on that, but this film was a little longer than it needed to be. I like how they create a sense of dread and hopelessness in the last hour of the movie, and it's a good idea, but it also took me out of the movie a little bit. I stopped caring a little in the third act, which is too bad, but I still love this movie nonetheless. Check it out. I may do a Fincher ranking in the future, so stay tuned for that. And then rewatched Ralph Breaks the Internet since I last saw it in theaters. It's mediocre. It's just fine. There's not much else to add. I think the third act fell apart completely. I liked it just fine, but it's kind of lame in the end, you know. Next I watched Johnny English Strikes Again, and it felt very dated. This feels like it was made in 2003, but just so happened to have a delayed release, so they added in some technology stuff into the plot, so it felt modern. I had a few laughs, but most of the time these were just jokes I've seen over and over again, so it was just a little tiring. Not a horrible film by any means, they just didn't do anything new. I then checked out My Cousin Vinny, and I loved it. The cast was hilarious, the concept is hilarious, the overall movie is hilarious. I don't have much else to add. It was a great time. Go check it out, please. I think it's on Hulu right now. Then I rewatched $1 Million Baby, and it was pretty good. The ending really shifts tones, and I think that's what I appreciate most. It takes risks. It's a powerful story and feels fresh, but can be a little inconsistent with its pacing. I love Clint Eastwood, I love Hilary Swank, and I love the man himself, Morgan Freeman. My sister hated it because she said it was sad, but I thought they did a fantastic job building up that sense of dread to a point where you feel like you can't handle living anymore, just like Swank's character. This is just a powerful sports drama that doesn't focus on the sport, it focuses on the drama, and I love it for that. Next I rewatched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, directed by Kevin Reynolds. My favorite film from Reynolds is The Count of Monte Cristo, but this is still pretty good actually. This gets a lot of unnecessary hate, and I don't think it deserves it at all. This is a beautifully shot movie for the most part. This has some really breathtaking action sequences as well. Kevin Costner's performance has received a lot of controversy since it first came out, and honestly, Costner is one of my favorite actors, and I think he's fine in this. It's not a great performance, but he's just such a likable guy, I really don't care. He's not that bad. Morgan Freeman's character is a little offensive watching it now in 2020. It's just a fun time, and yes, it has some really laughably bad dialogue at times. This movie has flaws, but it's just too much fun for me to really care, so why not? Also, what was Sean Connery doing this, man? I then saw Gone Girl, directed by David Fincher. Like I said before, I will probably make a Fincher ranked video in the future, so I don't want to get too much into this, but it was pretty great. It's not Fincher's best, and it didn't really give me a specific emotion by the end, but I still like this quite a bit. Mostly just the mystery of the story, performances, great direction, great score, fantastic, but come on, Davey, turn on some lights. And then rewatched 310 to Yuma, directed by my man's James Mangold. Mangold does not need any introduction on this channel. I love his films, and this one proves he's one of the best in the business right now. This is a fantastic blend of suspense and drama. I always feel invested, and Russell Crowe is terrific as the villain. I then rewatched Hamilton with my family, and we got a chance to reserve a small theater in the basement of the apartment complex we were staying at the time, and it was much nicer watching the movie with surround sound and subtitles. Oh my gosh, subtitle. I love this movie. Then using the same theater, I saw 1917 again with my family since they haven't seen it, and it was so much better on a big screen. I'm telling you guys, this is a must watch on a big screen. It's not even close to the same experience on TV or your phone. Please do not watch this on your phone. I then saw Lethal Weapon 2, directed by my man's Richard Donner. I love the first Lethal Weapon. It's one of my favorite action movies of all time, and I've heard people say this sequel is even better. I do think the first is better, but this movie's still quite great, and it's just fun, you know? And then watch Cinderella, the TV Disney movie from the 90s starring Brandy, Bernadette Peters, Whoopi Goldberg, Victor Garber, Whitney Houston, and Jason Alexander, you know, that guy from Seinfeld. This movie isn't great, but as a kid I hated this. I remember just being long and boring, but I was surprised to see there's quite a bit of enjoyment out of this. Yes, it's cringy and it's not like this mind-blowing story. It's Cinderella. I just thought it's funny that most of the big names like Whoopi Goldberg, Victor Garber, and Jason Alexander seem to be having a blast and not taking this too seriously. It just put a smile on my face. It's one of the worst on-screen versions of this I've seen with the story, but man did I have a fun time watching this. Then I saw The Farewell, directed by Lulu Wang. I was really disappointed. I thought this would be like a 4.5 out of 5, but it was a 3 out of 5. It's mostly because so much of this felt like wasted potential. I love the concept. It's a beautiful concept, and the execution for the first 30 minutes to an hour of the film felt like it put the concept to good use. Then it just went to a complete halt and slowed down tremendously to a point where I no longer cared, which is too bad because there's some great potential with an idea like this. The cinematography was breathtaking. The direction from Lulu Wang was beautiful and personal. I still think she deserves some Oscar credit this year, but I don't think this movie should have been nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it really deserved it. I didn't feel what I wanted to feel. I wish I felt sad when the characters felt sad. I wish I felt happy when the grandma was happy. It just didn't give me a good enough reason to care. It was a fantastic movie on a technical scale. I just felt a little underwhelmed emotionally by the end. Check it out though. It deserves more credit than it's been getting. I followed that up with Eurovision Song Contest, the story of Fire Saga, and it was pretty good actually. Way better than I thought it would be. The jokes do feel like they've been told before, but this time around felt fresh with Rachel McAdams and Pierce Brosnan. We're talking about Rachel McAdams for a sec. I love her. She's one of my favorite actresses, and I don't think she's been getting enough credit recently. She can be funny, she can be tragic, she can be really likable, she can be really unlikable. She can do no wrong, and with this, she's just funny. This is a movie that I can just turn on any Saturday afternoon whenever, and I'll enjoy it. It's not the most memorable thing, but it's not trying to be. It's just trying to be entertaining, and entertaining is what it is. Is it the best comedy I've seen in years? Absolutely not. Is it a good time despite what the critics are telling us? Of course it is. I followed that up with a Crazy Stupid Love, and I kind of loved it. Okay, so I know some of you may be mad since I gave this a better score than The Farewell, but this was just my kind of thing. I love the style, I love the writing, I love the energy, I love the cast. I feel like they were giving it all. When it was dramatic, yeah, I didn't care as much, but it didn't feel like it was trying to force it on you the entire time like most rom-coms do. This one feels unique, mostly due to the fact that it doesn't give you all the information at once, so it has shock value and it keeps you guessing a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you, that backyard scene really got me. I was dying laughing and my mouth was hanging open at the same time. My only real problems lie with the babysitter subplot. I found it a little disgusting and less funny than they were trying to make you think it was. I don't know if that makes sense. I know it was in there so to move the plot along, but I still found it pretty uncomfortable to sit through. Also at the end, when she gives the kid the picture, you know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. I found it a little irresponsible of the crew because they were using it as a happy, hopeful moment, and honestly it's kind of the opposite. It was just giving me the wrong vibe. Besides those things, I found it really enjoyable, and Ryan Gosling literally stole every scene he was in. I love that guy. I then rewatched a movie I've seen multiple times called Pure Luck. I don't know why critics hate this thing, but I think it's a pretty solid comedy. It's pretty funny. It's not like a laugh out loud sort of thing, but I'm chuckling throughout the whole thing. You can argue that, yeah, all the jokes are this guy screws up at everything, let's laugh at it. And it would get tiring, but in this case, they find a lot of clever ways to show this guy mess up. It's not like he slips on a banana peel for 2 hours straight. They have a lot of different things that they did with the absurd concept. Finally, I ended things off with The Man in the Iron Mask, directed by Randall Wallace. I saw this about a year ago in a car on the way to a camp out, and I remember liking it, but nothing in specific stuck with me. I thought it was just a ton of fun. There's some questionable acting in here, yes, namely from John Malkovich, but you can't deny that Leo was fantastic in here. He literally plays two people. What more could you want? This isn't like a dramatic period piece. It's 100% an action movie, and it's all the better for it. It's just a really fun time, and the plot itself is just really intriguing. My only huge problem I had with it was probably the forced comedy. When I say that, I mostly mean the character of Porthos. He was a little too over the top, and his jokes were just the repetitive fart and butt jokes that after a while made me question why he was even a character in this movie. I haven't not read the book, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I found the comedy and sort of some of the performances uncomfortable. Besides that, solid medieval action drama. So yeah, that's what I watched this month. Also, this happened right outside of the apartment I'm staying at. If you are wondering, yes, those are kids setting those off. I don't know who they are, but it was like midnight when they set those off, so it was really weird. I don't know why they were doing it. It was strange. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you watched this month, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Ethan Butler, and I'm out.